Welcome to Lollygaggin with Bert and Jenkins. In this show, I'll read you some stories from the lives of two swamp-dwelling critters named Banjo Bert and Slim Jenkins. I'll warn you now, these two hillbillies are moonshine drinkers, and their banter is not always family-friendly. Y'all good? Off we go then. The foreplay of the fireflies. In a moonlit swamp, Slim Jenkins, the bullfrog, sits on a mossy log, slurping fireflies out of the air with his tongue. Banjo Bert, the raccoon, approaches, munching on scavenged food he has in a rusty bucket. It's supper time in the deep wilds. Bert says, "Hey there, Slim. What you sitting there all puffy for? You look like you swallowed a whole jar of Granny May's moonshine pickles." Jenkins answers, "I's just pondering why in tarnation them fireflies do the blinky butt thing. They sending Morse code or something?" Bert laughs. "Your brain got the horsepower of a one-legged turtle, don't it? Them fireflies is just flashing their butts to flirt, you fool. Ain't you never tried courting?" Jenkins, feeling slightly attacked, says, "I done plenty courting, you furry fuck. Least I ain't digging in no trash cans for supper." Bert is befuddled and a little hurt that Jenkins called him a fuck. "This here's deluxe cuisine, Slim. Leftover fish heads and a smushed moon pie. Ain't nobody can resist a moon pie." Jenkins, who can in fact resist a moon pie, says, "It's an embarrassment to swamp society, Bert. Reckon if you had a lick of sense, you'd be hunting crawdads, not dumpster diving." Bert, with a quick comeback, says, "I seen you slurping pond scum like it's country gravy last Tuesday." Jenkins fires right back, "Least I eat local. I ain't raiding nobody's picnic for a dang cracker. Why don't you go wash them grubby paws in the creek afore you get the whole swamp sick?" Bert can't believe his furry ears. "Washing? What kind of fancy pants stuff are you talking, Slim? Can I get you a napkin or a salad fork?" "You were breastfed by your daddy, weren't you?" Jenkins snaps. Bert, taken aback, says, "What's that supposed to mean?" Jenkins, glad he asked, says, "Why, it means you didn't get the nutrition you needed as a child, and now that you're a grown coon, you're stupid and sexually confused." Bert, "I'm not confused at all, Slim. You're the one sitting by yourself watching the foreplay of the fireflies." Jenkins is getting flustered. "They taste better when they're electrified. Now scurry off and let me finish my dinner, would you?" "All right, fine," Bert concedes. "We still playing cards tomorrow?" asked Jenkins to lighten the mood. Bert grumbles, clearly bothered. "Long as you wash your fucking hands first." "Okay, pal, I'll see you tomorrow," says Jenkins. The raccoon stomps off muttering, while the bullfrog resumes his quiet contemplation, pausing only to catch a fat firefly, or to glance behind him to be sure the trash panda ain't coming back. Being this is the first episode, I'll tell you just a little about these two fellas. I'm sure y'all are curious how they met and became the good pals they are today. Just to ease your woefully curious minds, I'll tell you they used to work together. You'll hear stories from that time in their lives at a later date. For now, I'll just tell you they were wrangling bronchodiles at Martin's Gator Farm in Mudflap County. Ain't a better way to travel swamp trails than on a well-trained bronchodile steed. These two were such good wranglers, they started their own gator farm with great success. Now they've moved on to new ventures like noodling, selling T-shirts, and sharing their story. Speaking of their story, let's get back to this one. Poker night. The setting sun casts an orange glow over a rickety wooden shack where Banjo Bert and Slim Jenkins sit across from each other at the table. A deck of cards and a nearly empty bottle of moonshine sit between them. It's poker night in the swamp. Bert, shuffling the worn-out deck of cards, says, "Slim, you ain't won a hand in 3 months, and I'll be danged if tonight's the night." Jenkins, leaning back, his chair creaking under his weight, says, "Talk's cheap, Bert, just like that sorry excuse for moonshine you brought. Tastes like possum shit." Bert, offended, slams the deck on the table. "This here's Granny May's barrel-aged bog water. Been in the family for generations." Jenkins, croaking a laugh. "And it tastes like it's been buried for generations, too. You gonna deal or what?" Bert grumbles and deals. "You hear about that UFO sighting over in Mudflap County?" asked Jenkins. Bert, raising an eyebrow. "You believe in that mess? Bunch of drunk folks mistaking a street light for aliens. Ain't no such thing." Jenkins, taking a swig from the moonshine bottle and grimacing, scoffs. Says the critter who swears he saw Bigfoot stealing his bait bucket last spring. Bert, pointing a clawed finger at him, says, "I saw him clear as day. Had my bucket in one hand and a Slim Jim in the other. Ain't nobody else out there that hairy. Take it from me." Jenkins snickers. "Probably just your Uncle Earl after too much of this here bog water." Bert, grumbling again, "We'll see who's laughing when I take all your chips." He places a small pile of bottle caps and rusty nails on the table. Jenkins, matching the pile with his own stash of washers and a few buttons, says, "You ain't taking nothing, Bert. Now, what do you make of that fella running for mayor? The one promising free bait for life?" Bert squints at his cards. "Ain't nobody giving away bait without wanting something in return. Probably a ploy to ban noodling or something." Jenkins nods. "Ain't no way I'm voting for a man who don't respect noodling." Bert, laying down his cards triumphantly. "Straight flush!" Jenkins groans and tosses his cards on the table. "You lucky varmint! Reckon I'll have to start noodling more just to win my stash back." Bert grins and scoops up the winnings. "You sure will. Now, pour us another round, and let's see if them aliens show up tonight. Maybe I can take their money, too." Jenkins pours moonshine and chuckles. "If they do, they'll take one sip of this and fly right on back home. Granny May's barrel-aged bog water saves the planet from alien invasion," Bert jokes. Little did they know, that's exactly what would happen just 12.5 minutes later. The two carry on for 3 more hands. Bert wins, Jenkins says bad words, and they crack open a second bottle of moonshine. Bert slaps a paw full of cards on the table. "Read 'em and weep, Slim. Full house. Aces and eights." Jenkins, croaking indignantly, "Well, slap my lily pad and call me a catfish. You're cheating again, Joe. I seen you twitching that stripy tail under the dang table." Bert, showing off a missing tooth. "Ain't my fault you're too slow to catch on, Slim. Reckon you better fold now, 'fore all them not-so-shiny bottle caps come home with me." Jenkins, slamming a webbed hand on the table. "I don't even fold my laundry. I got a pair of 7s, and you ain't gonna—" A blinding light suddenly fills the shack, causing Slim's not-so-shiny bottle caps to become very shiny bottle caps. Both freeze, cards mid-air, jaws agape. Bert now more excited than ever to win the glowing pot. The light continues to get brighter. Bert, shielding his eyes with a paw. What in tarnation? Did you forget to turn off the still again, Slim? Jenkins croaks in terror. I ain't made a batch of shine since Groundhog Day, Joe. I swear, this is your fault. I told you we shouldn't mess with that Ouija board last week. A voice calls out from above, very kind and curious voice, in a language that neither of them understand. Fleeble kabuki beep boppin' goobity barp. Bert panicking. What the fuck was that? Jenkins wobbling as his chair begins to levitate. It's the ghost of Granny May. She got us hovering like skeeters over a swamp. Gerpen sneeber kabitty fraglus knocket. The voice calls again. Bert, grabbing onto the table as it floats, yells, It ain't no ghost, you dingus. It's those aliens. Grab the poker chips. I ain't leaving my winnings behind. Jenkins croaking frantically, Forget the chips. What if they probe us? Bert, eyes narrowing, clutching his cards. Over my dead body, no aliens taking my dignity or my full house. With a deafening hum, the pair in their makeshift poker setup are sucked into the sky. The table crashes onto a metallic floor, scattering cards and no longer shiny bottle caps everywhere. Our two critters are left floating in zero gravity, watching as their savings roll around on the floor. Jenkins, spinning slowly in midair. Well, I'll be a bullfrog on a spit. Wheezing space banjo. Bert, grumpily reaching to collect his cards upside down. If I find out this is some kind of alien prank show, I'm gonna sue. A little green man enters the room wearing a shiny silver jumpsuit, just the way you'd imagine. Bert begins laughing hysterically. He looks just like you, Slim. You never told me you was an alien. The little green man begins to speak. Spankin' boople, alpha boopy walogany sneeps. Bert, getting tired to hearing this gook, yells at the creature, I'm gonna spank your boople if you don't let me have my bottle caps. And we speak English round here, space frog. The little green man's face is flooded with surprise. He stretches out his arm to reveal what looks like a wristwatch. He pushes a few buttons on this contraption and speaks into it. Sherpety tinglet wat English, he says. His wristwatch responds, beep bop boop. The little green man smiles at his floating guest and begins to speak again. My apologies, gentlemen. I thought I had adjusted my translator before we greeted you. We have been observing this wetland district, and we're stricken with unbearable curiosity regarding this game in which you've been competing this evening. Jenkins, croaking with sudden bravado. Games, huh? Well, you're looking at the undefeated poker champion of Sugar Creek. Bert snorts. More like the undefeated loser. All these caps is mine. The little green man, ignoring their banter. Educate us, or face disintegration. Jenkins, gulping. I reckon we best show 'em how it's done, Bert. I ain't trying to get disgurgitated over a game of poker. Bert, already shuffling the cards. Fine, but y'all better ante up something good. I ain't educating for free. Jenkins croaking hopefully. Reckon they got any booze? Moonshine's gotta taste pretty good when it comes from the moon. Bert, grinning mischievously. Or space gold. We could retire rich, Jenkins. Real rich. The little green man pushes another sequence of buttons on his wristwatch, activating a holographic pile of glowing orbs, and says, "Your wager has been accepted." Bert, smiling wide and glancing sideways at Slim, says, "All right then, buddy. Let's take these green fellas for all they're worth." A dozen more little green men enter the room, and the poker game begins under the watchful eyes of the alien crew. Bert and Jenkins find themselves oddly at ease, cracking jokes and hustling extraterrestrials like seasoned pros. Bert continues to win hand after hand. Jenkins runs out of money and talks one of the crew members into lending him some holographic glowing orbs so he can continue teaching them what not to do. 6 hours pass by quickly, as they often do sitting round a poker table, and Banjo Bert has emptied every pocket on the ship. "Well, fellas, I guess we better be on our way. I'm getting mighty tired," he says with a yawn. The little green men look at each other and begin whispering. The one who greeted them when they arrived, presumably the leader, steps forward and says, "You may not exit this vessel with the orbs in your possession." Bert gasps. "Them's the rules. We bet, you lose, I keep. You ain't gonna learn nothing if I give 'em back to you." The little green men begin to whisper louder, seemingly getting upset. Jenkins' eyes light up with an idea. "Hey, fellas," he says, "we forgot the most important part of poker. This here's Granny Mae's barrel-aged bog water. You can't play poker without having something strong to sip on. It helps with the losing, too. Why don't you all keep it as a thanks for having us aboard?" The little green man takes the bottle and nods. Two of the others escort Bert and Jenkins to a little compartment of the ship and bid them farewell. As they wave at each other, Bert and Jenkins both begin to feel dizzy, and before they know it, they're sitting back at the table in the shack. Bert reaches into his pockets and pulls out his winnings. The pile of orbs sits 3 feet high on the rickety old table. "We're rich, Slim. We'll never have to noodle again. Can you believe it?" As they celebrate, the glow of the orbs begins to dim. Then the orbs themselves vanishing into nothingness. They look at each other deflated, their shoulders slumped. Then Bert sighs, "Son of a bitch." The little green crew, on the other hand, were celebrating their newly learned skills and preparing to try the beverage their guests had gifted them. The leader speaks. "I attempted to inform them. One cannot exit the vessel with the orbs. Alas, we have won the poker game and the bog water." "Meeper Guvio Fleefly," they all cheer. Glasses filled with moonshine are raised in tribute to their former guests. Together they taste Granny Mae's bog water, and together they spit it out. "Whoopee talkie goobles," one of them cries out. Translation: "That tastes like possum shit." That's all for today, folks. You can spend some more time with us on Facebook, Instagram, or BurtonJenkins.com. Thanks for joining us in some lollygagging today. Y'all come back now, you hear?